Snuggles. My snuggle bear. Toes. Hi guys, welcome here to Happy Little Knits. This is episode 1 of the Crocheted podcast. And I am your host, Chanel Shea. Okay, so thank you for joining me on my first ever YouTube video. I'm a little nervous, but also really excited, so just bear with me. Yeah, so this is just gonna be your typical knitting podcast, I guess. We're gonna have a little bit of knit, a little bit of crochet. Before we dive into that though, I guess I should probably talk a little about myself so you can get to know me a little bit. I am 22. I live in the PNW with my husband and our daughter. We just had a baby in October. And our 2 kitties. That's the gist. I'm a stay-at-home mom. So far it's been great. We're only at 6 weeks, but so far it's been pretty good. Yeah, so a little bit about my history with crocheting and knitting. I have been crocheting for about, I'd say a little over 2 years now, maybe. Yeah, a little over 2 years. Knitting though is very new as of this year. Crocheting, I learned how to crochet my junior year of high school in one of my classes. So that was like 2017, I believe. One of my teachers made it an assignment for us to like crochet or knit some like hats and scarves and blankets and stuff for the winter season, to donate to people in need. And I failed that project. I wasn't able to even make one thing because crocheting and knitting was very confusing for me. And that year was also a really hard year, so I wasn't really able to really focus on it that much, enough for it to like sink in, so I didn't really get into it. But in 2018, my husband and I started dating in January of 2018, and I thought that I would make him a blanket for his birthday, which is in March. And I'm sure for most of you, it probably seems a little realistic to make a blanket in just a couple months, but for me, that was not the case. I didn't make it in time for his birthday, so I figured I'd make it in time for Christmas, but that didn't happen either. I didn't make it in time for our second Christmas together in 2019. I didn't finish it until like the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I believe. It's a very large blanket. It was a queen size blanket that I made accidentally. I just made a really long chain, started crocheting, and didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't cutting my stitches or anything, so the edges were really wonky. And it's really funny because in the beginning I didn't know what I was doing. So like you can see where I just started like putting stitches wherever, like I didn't know to go at the top of the previous row, like in the stitch for the previous row. So it was really messy in the beginning until like halfway through, then I was starting to kind of understand. So yeah, it was quite the messy blanket. Plus I didn't make it width-wise and work the length. I worked lengthwise and made it the width by accident because I just made a really long chain and just started crocheting. But after I finished that blanket, I thought it was the best thing ever. I was like, you know what, I gotta make more of these. I was addicted to crocheting blankets. So 2020 was, I have a lot of blankets that I made that year. And I attempted a lot of sweaters and they never turned out right because I was never following a pattern. I was just trying to wing it. But yeah, I fell in love with crocheting. I still am in love with crocheting. I'd say I made it my personality once I got the hang of it. But yeah, that's kind of like my history of crocheting. With knitting, on the other hand, I'd say like 2020 to like 2021-ish, like the middle of 2021. I attempted knitting quite a few times. I made like a scarf and stuff, and like I knitted a blanket and it turned out pretty good. Because that one I was actually following a pattern. But the first few times I tried knitting, I did not like it. I attempted it 3 times, and each time I was like, this is too confusing. It's not for me. And I swore that I was a crocheter strictly, and anyone who knit was crazy because it was so stupid. But yeah, in like the end of 2021, I believe. Yeah, I want to say it was end of last year. I started watching knitting podcasts and I really started getting into it. So this year I have attempted knitting again and I'm absolutely in love with it. I'm still very much a beginner, but I love everything knitting. So yeah, I hope the lighting's okay. We're running out of daylight here. It's raining all day, and so I got the baby down for a nap, so I'm like trying to rush to get this done while I still have sunlight, or whatever light this is. I think it's working so far, but bear with me. Okay, so I guess we'll just dive right in. That was just a brief get to know me, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna go over kind of the stuff that I worked on this year. I got pregnant in January and I had my daughter in October. So I didn't really get a whole lot done because the thought of knitting or crocheting anything made me nauseous. So, whenever I felt fine enough, I was able to work on some stuff here and there. But, yeah, so it's not a whole lot, but I'll just show you what I got for now, I guess. Okay, so the first things that I made, I have quite a few pair of socks because I was really in love with sock knitting. Not at first though. Holy moly, not at first. Like I said, I knit a blanket. It was chunky knit and like super easy pattern. I was just stocking it the whole time. I don't have that with me. I gifted that to my mom last year, I want to say. The timeline of everything is really confusing because of COVID and then also being pregnant. So the timeline of everything for me is very confusing. But anyway, we'll make it work. So I made a pair of socks. They're just a very basic vanilla sock. It's my first time buying like nicer yarn other than like DK weight acrylic yarn. And I was like, ooh, I want to make something fancy. And so I went with the socks. So this is the first pair of socks that I made. I made them, I want to say at the beginning of this year. And they worked out pretty quick once I got the hang of it. I attempted these 3 times. I guess 3 is the magic number here. Yeah, the first few times I made them, I had DPNs and I had never used DPNs before. And so it was really confusing for me. And I did not like it. And then I tried using magic loop or magic circle, whatever you call it. And that didn't work for me either. It just, being a beginner and going from crocheting to knitting and trying to figure out how to hold my hands and work these things, it was really confusing. So I finally caved in and I said, you know what? I need to make these socks. I'm not just going to let this yarn sit here. So I bought 9-inch circular needles and that worked. I was able to bust these out within like a week. I want to say a week or 2. The thing is though, they came out really big. This is supposed to be a size medium and like the yarn is sock weight, like it's sock yarn, you know? So I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I was knitting loose or what, but they came out really big. They're really comfy though. I wear them all the time. That's why they look like they're pilling quite a bit. But yeah, I think they're the best thing ever. They're so comfortable, but they are just slightly big. Like this, the cuff section slouches a little bit because it's not very tight. But that's all right. They're so comfortable. All right, so moving them right along now. The second pair, I had gone to Hobby Lobby, I believe, and I got some yarn. I don't have the labels for any of the yarn that I used for these socks, unfortunately, because this was so long ago. But yeah, I went to Hobby Lobby and I found this gorgeous yarn. It reminded me of like lava, like a volcano, like fire and everything. And so I wanted to knit my husband a pair of socks. This is how this pair came out. I did a size medium for his too. I just made the foot portion like slightly shorter to see if maybe that would account for anything. My husband and I have pretty similar sized feet. His are skinny and long and mine are short and wide. So we wear like the same size shoe basically. Not all the times. I mean, his feet are slightly bigger, but yeah. So for the heel flap, I did pearls instead of knit because I wanted to try and get a different texture for that part. And I thought it was kind of fun, but the only thing that I don't like about it though is it makes this like ridge here. But I mean, they look pretty cool in my opinion. My husband likes them. He wears them to bed every night. But again, they're really big for some reason. Like, I guess when I say big, I mean like loose. Like, they fit slightly looser. Especially like in this area. It slouches on his too. So I just made a third pair of socks, and I figured this time I would make a size small to see if maybe it was the size that I was doing, because I'm using the same needles for all these, and it's the same, these two were the same size yarn, I believe. So I went to Hobby Lobby and got another 2 skeins recently. So I made this pair of red socks for like Christmas time. And I made the cuff shorter too, because I wanted to do like a shorter ankle. Plus I was afraid of like maybe running out of yarn, because I'm so used to crocheting, and crocheting taking like eating your yarn so much. So I'm still trying to figure out like when it comes to knitting and how much yarn is required, if that makes sense, because I know that knitting takes a little bit less than crocheting. So I get really worried about yarn chicken. So I went to size small, and of course they're too small now. So I let my mom try the first sock on when I finished it, and it fit her just fine. And so these are going to now be her Christmas present. So yeah, I really like the color of this yarn though. You can see like the different tones of red and like some black in there. I think these are the best pair that I made. The structure of them is really nice, and excuse me, you can see the texture of like the heel flap. Turned out a lot better because I knew what I was doing this time. It's my third time. Third time's a charm. But yeah, I really like these pair. I finished the second one like a couple days ago actually, but they worked up really quickly. My husband's pair, I made these so fast. Like, I made a sock a day. Like, these each took a full day, and they were done within like a weekend. My first pair that I made took a very long time, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was like a couple weeks, like longer than 2 weeks, because I was new to it, so it took me a really long time. But these ones, I took a break from it. I got the first one, like I started the first one, and then I took a break from it for a long time. I don't remember why, but I took a break from it. And then once I finished it, I just bust this one out like the next day, and I got them done. And yeah, so that's first Christmas present done. And that yarn, I do have the labels for this yarn. This is how much I have left over for those socks. And I'm gonna, yeah, we'll get into what I'm gonna do with that later. This is Yarn Bee Authentic hand-dyed yarn. And it has about 400 yards, and I believe I took the labels off of them, so I am afraid I'm getting them mixed up. But I believe this was the Hibiscus Palm, and then I have another skein, which is also the same brand, but I believe it's called, that one's the Cardinal Velvet. I might be getting them mixed up though. But yeah, so those are my socks that I knit this year. I have made a few sweaters. Yeah, I crocheted 2 and I knit 2. 2 of them I sold, and then the 2 I have here. So yeah, those are next on the agenda. We'll get into that. The first sweater I have to show you is the most recent one that I finished. It's my knit sweater. It's just a basic raglan sweater. And this is my first time knitting a raglan all the way. I've attempted a raglan quite a few times. I really like the seam of the arm right here, like of the raglan, I guess. The increases here. It's really nice. But yeah, I have attempted raglan quite a few times with different sized yarn, different sized needles, different types of yarn. I always struggle with it though, because I always end up making my sweaters too like wide for some reason. And that's the case with this one too. Like, this one came out really wide. And the neck is also another problem. The neck is like huge. You can't really tell, but when I wear it, it's like everything is out because it's so wide. and loose and it like slouches, and I don't like that very much. But I finished this and then I was so excited to wear it that I snipped the ends. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did it anyway. So of course everything started to unravel. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of how it fit, and with the fact that everything started to unravel, instead of like going back in and trying to like fix that, I think I'm gonna undo it. The yarn that I used for that is, if I can find it, it's Respun by Lion Brand. It's 100% recycled polyester, and it's like this charcoal gray with like some hints of white. It is medium, size 4. The baby is crying. We'll be right back. Okay. We made it back. Anyway, so I don't remember what I was saying. We're currently in the nursery. We ran out of light for the most part, so I flicked on the little night light. Yeah, we're in the nursery because my craft room is in shambles at the moment. It's not, we'll get into that later. But yeah, so that sweater, that was my first full raglan knit. Like I said, I've attempted it quite a few times and it never really worked out. Just because it never fit right. I have tried lots of different patterns, YouTube tutorials, just basic raglan sweaters, nothing too fancy. And they just never fit right. I think I'm still just trying to learn like my body shape with knitting. I've never made myself clothing before, so I don't know, I'm just trying to learn how to do that. I don't know, like you can see my arms, I'm a thicker person, so it's hard to try and, I guess, figure out like if a size medium will fit or a size large or an extra large depending on the pattern. So yeah, just trying to get it to fit right. I am still trying to learn how to do. Now with that sweater, I am going to take it, unravel it, see if I can get it to fit better. I have another sweater that I'm going to, so I have a sweater that was store-bought by someone and gifted to me for Christmas last year. And I like it a lot. I like the feel of it. It's very soft. But the thing is it's a cropped sweater. And it's like snug around the arms. And I am not the biggest fan of cropped clothing. So I'm going to attempt to unravel that one as well. And knit those two together to make like a chunkier sweater. I'm debating on if I want to do a raglan or if I just want to do like a panel sweater and just sew it all together. We'll see. But I'm going to attempt to show you the sweater one-handed. Bear with me here. So this is the sweater. This one's panel sewn together, I can tell. But this is what the yarn looks like. So it's like a cream color with like some speckles of like red and yellow and black and green. And I think some like pinks. But yeah, so I'm going to attempt to unravel that. I have some more yarn that is very similar to that. It's the same cream color. And instead of having all the colored speckles, it only has black speckles. So if I don't have enough yarn there to do like a full sweater, I will, whatever's left over, use that yarn for. I don't have it with me at the moment. It's in my craft room. I forgot to grab it. But yeah, so that's the first knitted sweater, and I guess an acquisition that I have as well. 2 in 1. The second second sweater that I knit was actually the first sweater that I knit. So it was a chunky knit sweater, and it was, I forgot the name of it, but it's a sweater pattern by We Are Knitters, and I followed along with the tutorial and everything, and it was a free I'm pretty sure it was a free sweater pattern. Yeah, I made that for somebody and they bought it from me. I wish they didn't though, because it was not my best like, it was my first time attempting to knit a sweater, and so it shows that that was my first time attempting to knit a sweater. It was a really easy pattern, but I don't know why. I followed everything, the instructions to the T. I got the exact yarn I was supposed to use, the correct size needles I need to use. I followed along with the video. It fit the person great because I made sure that their measurements fit up with the measurements that were included on like the pattern. But the thing is I guess I was knitting loosely. So it's a panel sweater. You knit the back and then the front and then the arms, you sew it all together. And the arms, like, I didn't take into account that the sweater would, like, the shoulder would slouch a little bit or drop, I guess, a little bit lower than just right where your arm connects to your body, I guess. So I made the sleeves a little bit too long, and the body of the front of the sweater, so the back panel turned out great, but the front panel, it turned out fine up until where you have to like decrease to shape the neckline, or not decrease, but drop needle size to make it a tighter stitch around the neckline. When doing that, it made gaps in between the stitches, and it was the exact same as how you do the back, and the back turned out fine. And then I unraveled it and I tried to do it again like 3 or 4 times, and for some reason I kept getting gaps there. So I was like, you know what, we're just gonna have to leave the gaps, because I was also running out of time. I had to get it done and over with. But yeah, I did not enjoy making that. That whole time I was just wanting to hurry up and get it over with because it was not a fun knit for me. But by the time I was done with it, I was really disappointed in it, and I told them that they could have it for free, or I could just, you know, keep it and do something else with it. But they decided to keep it, so they still wear it, so they must like it. I hope. But I don't have it with me. They did send me pictures of it, like laying on the ground, the front and the back, so I'll include those. But yeah, so that was the first sweater that I knit, and then I crocheted a sweater for my husband, and that was like my millionth time attempting to crochet a sweater, but my first time actually it was my millionth time trying to crochet a sweater, but the first time actually like completing it, and also the best sweater I think I've ever made, ever. It fit him great. I will include a picture of him wearing it. That one was also a panel sweater, you know, front, back, arms, sewed all together. I did follow a free pattern for that. I'll include the name of it and who it's by. I forgot. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but, yeah, that one was a lot of fun and ended up so quick. I think I made it, like, I crocheted it while I was pregnant, so I had a lot of time on my hands, and I believe it took about a week to make that one. And then I made that, and then the person who bought the first knit sweater, they wanted one just like his, so I made them a sweater as well. Just, it was slightly bigger, and that one I ended up, or crocheted, oh my gosh, I made that one, I think it only took me like 2 days to make that one. That one, like, it went really fast. I was having a lot of fun making those sweaters. But I used just regular, like, acrylic yarn that I got from Joann's. I don't have the labels with me anymore, so I don't know exactly what they were or what the colorway was. I have them here. I'm going to attempt to show you. I just have my husband's sweater. I don't have the other one, because that one I gave to that person, obviously. But we're attempting to do everything one-handed now, and with not the best lighting, so we'll see how this works. Okay, so this is the sweater that I made for my husband. It's not in your face. So yeah, it's very thick. It keeps him very warm whenever he wears it. He's not used to like handmade stuff, so he doesn't wear it that often, but every time I remember, I'm like, will you wear it, please? And he does, and he likes it a lot. This is kind of what the texture looks like. So yeah, you just make the panels, and then you just include the neckline there, just with some ribbing. So yeah, his is in like a burnt orange color. The second one that I made was in a denim blue color. They're pretty soft. They're a little bit heavier because it's crochet with acrylic yarn, DK weight, and it stays very warm. There is holes in it, of course, because of the pattern, but for how many holes there is in it, it actually stays very warm. Yeah, that sweater, I am very proud of how it came out, which says something. I love crocheting, but when it comes to crocheting clothing, I'm not very good at it. So with how well that one turned out and how well it fits him, I'm very proud of it. And I would like to make one for myself, but I just have a lot of stuff that I'm making for the holidays right now, so that might have to come next year. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that's all. Oh, I crocheted this blanket behind me. When we found out we were having a girl, I got really excited, went straight to the store, picked out some pink yarn. Yeah, so this one was a lot of fun to make. I'll show you the center of it if I can find it. Maybe I'll show you the center of it. Well, now I'm confusing myself. It's like a vortex spiral type situation. So I don't know if you can really tell, but here is the center of it. And you just kind of, it's like a granny square that you just keep making bigger and bigger and bigger. And it has it as like this offset like pattern, as you can see. So it looks like it's going in 4 different directions. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So crazy. Yeah, so that one, that was a lot of fun to make. It also went really fast. I think that one only took about 3 or 4 days to make because I could not put it down. I was having so much fun making it. Yeah, you just crochet in a spiral basically, and it is just essentially a very large granny square. And it makes a really cool pattern. I believe that's everything I made this year. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's everything I made this year. So not a whole lot. Yeah, like I said, I was pregnant, and pregnancy was pretty rough for me at least. So I didn't get a whole lot done, but I do have, as of right now, I have 1 whip and then one that I keep attempting, but it's not really working out. So I have a pair of socks. Here, I'll include the name of the pattern and who it's by, as well. So I'm making these also as a gift. This is my second Christmas present, I guess, on the list. But it's self-striping yarn. This is the, what did I say it was? Cascade something. This is the second skein that I got from Hobby Lobby. Cardinal Velvet. And with this pattern, you can see that it's kind of making like a braided type of situation. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I finished all my decreases, so now I'm just working the length of the foot. This is one of those ones that I just like, I cannot put it down. I'm having so much fun. I got this yarn the same time that I got that red yarn, and I knew that I wanted to make socks with the red yarn, and I was pretty sure I was gonna make socks with these two, with this other like multicolored yarn, but I just kept thinking like, I think I want to do something different than just socks. And I wanted to, I got really bored of just making plain vanilla socks. So I wanted to do something, like I wanted to follow along a pattern with socks. And Carson, I don't know her YouTube name, but she had done a video where she included a bunch of like free sock patterns. Like I think it was 10 free sock patterns. Or 10, I think it might have just been 10 sock patterns. I don't know. But this one was a free pattern that she included. And it's super easy to follow along. And it is a lot of fun to make. I started that sock on Friday. And today's Tuesday. And I want to say I took a break. Yeah, yesterday I didn't really work on them. So Sunday I spent a lot of time working on them. And they are just flying off the needles. I am kind of stressing out though because I have to finish this sock and the other one to go with it, and then I have to make. I don't have to make, but there are 2 beanies that I'm wanting to make for my father and one for my father-in-law, and that'll be my first time knitting a hat, and I am struggling with it. I want to use that leftover red yarn to make one, and then if I have any leftover of this this sock yarn that I'm making that sock with right now, then I will make the other one with it. But I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to make a beanie with it. I have searched a bunch of tutorials on how to like start a hat because I want to make it top down, but I'm not finding a whole lot. There's a lot of different techniques out there, and I found one that I like, but it's just really confusing for me. I'm attempting to do it on DPNs, and I think that's what's messing me up, because I have a set that is like 4 DPNs instead of 5. And so I'm trying to figure out how to fit it all on 3 stitches or 3 needles instead of 4 needles, and having the increases at all 4 points, you know, at all 4 corners. Does that make sense? So it's kind of confusing to try and do it on 3. So I have attempted to make this beanie like 3 or 4 times. I had started it right before making this video, and then I just took it all out because it was a mess. So I'm gonna try and do some more research and maybe hopefully find a pattern somewhere out there. It doesn't have to be free or whatever. I just am looking for a simple beanie pattern. And I'm praying that I get it done in time for Christmas. If not, then they'll get it for New Year's. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so as far as acquisitions, just those 4 things, and then that sweater. That sweater that I am going to attempt to make is probably going to have to come after the holidays, because I feel like there's too much pressure right now to try and get gift knits done and not a lot of time. So yeah, I guess stay tuned for that. But yeah, my craft room, like I said, is in shambles at the moment. I purchased off of Facebook Marketplace last year a whole bunch of yarn. It was like, I bought it from this lady, and I think it came in 2 large moving boxes and then 1 large black garbage bag full of yarn, all different kinds of yarn. Almost all of it was acrylic yarn, and then a good amount of it was rug yarn. And I don't make rugs, and I found that it's very scratchy, and so I am not really turned on by it. I don't really want, I don't see myself using it. Now, I had added that to my stash that I already had at the time, and which was already becoming a pretty large stash. So at the moment, in my craft room next door, I have 2 large IKEA like bookshelves, and one of them, they take up an entire wall in that bedroom, like the biggest wall in the room, and one of them is completely full of yarn, and then the rest of the yarn I have in a large box, some of it in a large bag, and then the rest of it, which is all currently like whips from over the years in a giant pile. And so I have to organize all of that, and there's not enough hours in the day to get it all done. But my goals for that room, I would like to get rid of majority of it, because almost all of the yarn that I have, besides a small percent of it, is acrylic yarn. And it's not like, a lot of it is just that like kind of scratchy acrylic yarn. It's not very good for clothing, is what I'm trying to get at. I want to start acquiring like softer, thinner, and better quality yarn, so that I can start making clothing for me and my family. Because before, when I was first trying to get into crocheting, I was really just trying to experiment with like creativity, and I was really into just making blankets. But now that I am starting to transition to knitting, I find myself wanting to make more clothing, and I want to make stuff that's going to last a long time and get use out of it. And yeah, like I want I guess just better quality. So I want to attempt to organize all the yarn and then donate basically everything. And then over the course of the year, next year, maybe bring in some stuff. But I also just want to minimize my stash, because having an entire room full of yarn is, for one person, is a little too overwhelming. And it's hard to manage, you know, like I find myself not even wanting to go into that room because it's so overwhelming, and that is not good. So yeah, plus when we set up the nursery, this used to be our guest room, and then it became the nursery. So now we no longer have a guest room. So my craft room, I also don't have a workspace either. So it's going to become craft room / office / guest room, essentially. So I just need to get all the yarn organized so that I can set it up to where it will be a more efficient room, I guess, in the house. So yeah, that's kind of like my goal for next year, is to get that room organized better and become a room that I enjoy being in, instead of one that I try to ignore even exists. But yeah, this has been quite the journey, I guess. Thanks if you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for sitting with me and my daughter, and I guess making it through this mess with me. I'll get a better rhythm of things as we progress on here, but I think for now, this is where I'm going to leave you. Thank you for visiting with me on my first episode, and